Today in history, the Stonewall Riots begin, and it changed the world. Watch this.
Everything society could take away from you had already taken away from them. This was their home. Somebody threw something at the door. Ruckus started. Police came out of the door chasing somebody. Then they went inside because they felt endangered. The police barricaded themselves inside the bar. Basically, all hell broke loose.
By the time police reinforcements arrived, Christopher Street had filled with several hundred people.
Police came out. People dispersed. People ran down that street. They ran up various other streets, Bleecker Street, Gay Street. They just were all over here. It was one of the greatest nights in the history for gay people.
The LGBTQ plus civil rights movement developed right alongside the greater civil rights movement. As early as the mid-1940s, gay and lesbian groups were organizing to fight for equality. Things reached a boiling point in the early hours of Saturday, June 28, 1969, when police raided the Stonewall Inn just after midnight. Alcohol was confiscated, and those who were dressed, quote, masquerading as a member of the opposite sex, end quote, and that is how New York law described it, were arrested. Witnesses say that police began to rough up a woman dressed in men's clothing, thought to be Storme Delaverie, and that's when the gathered crowd turned on the police. When they found out what was happening, activists Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera made their way to the inn to help lead in the resistance. Through the following week, protests and fights with law enforcement continued outside the mafia-run bar. A year later, the Christopher Street Liberation March, which today is New York Pride Parade, was held on the anniversary of the riots, and gay pride, as we know it, was born in the world.
I think this is pretty groundbreaking, but my first question is, were you actually there until recounting the story, or were you actually reading from the teleprompter?
Yeah, this comes from the man who is 7 days older than me.
That's true.
Yeah.
But, I was in a more protective environment. They didn't just let me out wandering around. I think that what happened then is extremely groundbreaking. And what's scary is what we're going through right now and how history can repeat itself. And we'll talk, I'm sure, during this show about all those other issues, but it is truly, just think of how the world has changed, and by that action, what has snowballed down to where we are today, good and bad.
Mm-hmm. I think we're in an interesting situation in that, along with this anniversary, the National Park Service, they've declared Stonewall Inn as a national monument for the LGBTQ community, and on Saturday they had a ceremonial groundbreaking celebration of the National Park Service's LGBTQ Visitor Center for the National Park at Stonewall, the first of its kind in the United States, and I believe the first of its kind in the entire world. So what's going on in New York for LGBT community is really quite great.
It really is a sense of pride when you celebrate gay pride in New York City. And I have to say that group of people were very brave. It was amazing. It must have been the most scary night they've ever experienced. And they did change the world from that.
Yeah, they did change the world. A lot of people do not realize when you're in your 20s and a millennial, you might not know, I'm only playing with you, but you might not know when we watched...
That's a lawsuit start.
So, yeah, when São Paulo last weekend, the weekend before, had 4 million people come to their gay pride parade in São Paulo, or what happened in London, or what happened earlier in the month in Rome. Every one of those events are tagged to a single moment in world history. June 28th, 1969, on Christopher Street in New York City. That was the spark moment for the entire planet, and every gay community in large cities, small cities, countries, states, everyone has the place of thanks of that moment at the Stonewall Inn, which I think is really, really incredible and will never be forgotten. LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ+ community.